start with a little bit of a personal narrative. When I began my current role at the Open University, leading our Masters in Online and Distance Education, I felt a bit like I was joining the enemy. I'd spent 15 years as an OU tutor, teaching completely open entry courses, and then more recently I've been in open research as an open researcher, championing and researching the use of open educational resources, open educational practices, and here I was coming to lead a programme which has relatively high entry fees, has entry requirements, and where the demographic is, I suppose, sort of fairly elite. It's people who've already got qualifications, undergraduate qualifications. But all wasn't actually as it seems, and that's the sort of story I'm going to tell today. I'll be telling the story of how a paid-for master's programme can be a really powerful force for open and for increasing access to education, rather than limiting it to a privileged few. And this presentation is also, as you may have seen on Twitter earlier, a celebration of a programme that's now over 20 years old, which seems amazing, absolutely amazing to me. But it's celebrating that as well. So, just a little bit about our Masters in Online and Distance Education. I will be calling it the MAODE, just so I can get through the presentation in time. So, it started in 1997. It was originally the MA in Open and Distance Education. It was quite interesting. We lost the Open to become online, but still retaining our openness. That's something we're revisiting about whether we should bring the Open back now. Currently four modules, 260 credit, 230 credit, approximately 200 fee-paying students a year. We're very proud to have 20 Commonwealth Distance Learning Scholarship students to date. The Commonwealth Secretariat pays for their fees, they're fully funded. And amongst the highest completion of pass rates in the EU, and it's a testbed for university-wide innovation. Now, I wanted to find a way of visualising the aspects of openness on our programme, and so inspired by the Reclaim video movement we heard about yesterday, I got my pencils out. I produced this. Got pencils out. I started off with something snazzy, done in Photoshop, and I thought, nope, I'll get my creative inspiration going. So this is sort of an emergent model, really, and I really sort of value feedback on this. My presentation's CC license, go and do with it what you wish. Just a skim through it, I'll look at it in more depth as we go, but the top layer there, which we've got Open Learn units, Open Learn Bot and Future Learn course, that's the more, perhaps, the traditional sense of structured open content. So they're things that are available on open platforms to the wider world, and that can fulfill our social mission, raise education to a wider audience than would be studying a fee-paying module. It can be a taster for the programme, and also it can allow us to promote the programme. What I'm particularly interested in is this bit at the bottom, this other sector, which are the things that are happening within the fee-paying module, but which are also promoting openness. So I'll be talking about open assets within the programme, modelling open educational practices, and a community of open practice that has evolved within the programme. So I'll start with the more sort of formal open aspects. The units we have on Open Learn, which is the Open University's open content platform. Some of you will be familiar with this. We have over 5% of our curriculum across the EU released on Open Learn openly, and the MAODE is no exception. This example here is from our newest module on critical research, and it's an Open Learn unit on evaluating infographics. We've, Katrina, who Katrina Law, who this presentation was written with. She and I have researched over the years on the impact of Open Learn, and have found it does increase access to education, but it also does function for formal students to use as a taster for the online and distance learning mode, to see what it's like to study online, as a taster for specific discipline areas and for particular modules, and as a taster for a sort of a qualification pathway to try and plan a route through a particular qualification. Certainly, universities have to make money, and it does work as a shop model for attracting students, converts learners into fee-paying enrolments. And in doing so, and in achieving our sort of social mission as the OU, it adds value to knowledge production. So we've spent money on producing modules, but it's adding value around that. So just a few stats there of the sort of the visits. We range between, these are the modules we've currently got, the units we've currently got on Open Learn, and ranges between 668 through to 6,080, which is our most popular unit. This is over the course of just over a year, from 2017 to 2018, and roughly sort of average 12%-ish click through to the OU courses pages. So it is a mechanism for enrolment, sure. The second part of the sort of formally structured open layer within the MA ODE is our just about to be launched BOC, our badged open course. Take Your Teaching Online, intended for people who are brand new to teaching online. And our BOCs are really growing within the OU. There's publicly shareable activity records that we've got evidence that our BOC learners share with prospective and current employers. Thus far, over 5,000 OU badges have been issued. 15,000 new visitors a month come to Open Learn just to study the BOCs. Over 25% make a formal inquiry to study. And satisfaction rates for the BOCs are very high, perhaps because of the certification at the end. So that's another formal part of our open provision. Also, starting on June the 25th, our first Future Learn MOOC for the MAODE, the Online Educator, which is focused on 4 different areas, navigating the hype around disruption and innovation in open education, looking at accessibility and innovation, looking at research into open education and the issues of online research ethics, and looking at digital identity and educator identity online. So we're looking at this also as a way of achieving the social mission of the Open University and just getting our provision out to as many people as possible, but also bringing people in and sort of unapologetic. It's a two-way relationship, really. Now, what I found particularly interesting when thinking about how our programme is achieving increased openness is what's going on within the confines of the registered students. What are they doing? And what are we doing in providing things like open assets, modelling open educational practices, and building a community of open practice? So let's focusing on one specific module here. I chair this module. It's a module on critical research. It's open research in particular. And we've done several things here. We have used all but 3 openly licensed images. There's 157 images used in here. Only 3 were paid for, costing £27.50. And I've yet to pin down which ones those were. And that saves us apparently between £2,000 and £5,000 on rights. Now, I think the real value here is that not so much, the money saved is important, but that also allows us to create a really rich learning experience by bringing in images that we wouldn't be able to afford to put in. And in this module, it's allowed a sort of narrative about visual storytelling in research. But another thing that's doing, it's modelling the open practice of using open resources. And so students can see that this is what we're doing, and we're reflecting in there about how we've chosen these images and the value they have for the learning process. We use part of the OER Hub's P2PU Open Research course, so we're taking an OER and sort of refashioning bits of it within this formal course. We have included here Data and Design, which is an openly licensed textbook on infographics, and as much as possible, while still being sort of communicating what we need to about the discipline, we're using open access articles, journal articles, and also CC licensed YouTube videos on research methods. So all of those aspects are open to the world, even so within the confines. And I'll talk a little bit about why that matters in a while. Here we are, Catherine Cronin, yesterday's presentation. I want to just bring her in to talk about the complexities of being an open educator. She talked about it's complex, it's personal, it's contextual, it's continually negotiated. It can be really difficult being an open educator. It can be sort of an uncomfortable process of negotiating sort of privacy and openness and finding out where your standpoint is, developing an identity. So I think an important part of the way we're fostering openness within the MA programme is by modelling open practices that educators can then perhaps engage with at a different level to just reading about them. So for example, we've got on one of our modules an online conference where all of the presentations and a social layer around them are released openly. So these are the students participate in an online conference, create assets, and then share them openly. There's the peer-to-peer university unit, so it's modelling the use of OER, and also our tutors are using Twitter, Facebook to sort of model the use of social media in education and to sort of bridge the closed and the open worlds. Now, that takes us to a multiplier effect, and I think this is the big thing for me. This is the big thing, that using Creative Commons licensed images, openly licensed resources, and open access journals allows paying students, and especially those in the developing world, which is a part of my own sort of research area, to cascade their skills and knowledge with their colleagues, with peers, more easily because the resources are open. So a couple of examples. One of our students in Pakistan has taken the Data and Design infographics resource and is translating it into Urdu for use with colleagues. Another in India is within an NGO and has been using some of the YouTube videos to lead with workshops on project evaluation. So it's not only taking those practices forward, but also being able to use the resources because we've made them openly accessible, or have been used openly accessible resources. So with the final aspect of openness that's within the programme, which is a bridging thing really. So it's this fostering a development of a community of open practice. And I think a big theme of this year's conference has been sort of communities and inclusivity and breaking down barriers within openness. And there's lots of different ways in which we can try and bridge the closed fee-paying community and the wider world. We do through Twitter hashtags, a couple of examples there. So using module hashtags and hashtags about broader subjects. We invite students to research events, other events in the real world, and hopefully bringing our students together as a community of practice. A lot of them are professional educators anyway, but it's just allowing them to make connections with people in the open education community that they may not necessarily have encountered before. And so developing this community of practice where everybody can learn from each other outside the realms of the fee-paying course. And a couple of students, for example, have told us that this has subsequently led to relationships that have gave them jobs or have allowed them to pursue funded project opportunities. So it's forging new relationships. So really, in a nutshell, that's sort of my story. Is that while I started off thinking this is going to be really closed, this is going to be a really sort of quite an elitist domain, there are a lot of different ways in which a formal master's programme is opening up education, is cascading knowledge, information, relationships, and building community.